We expected the Switch 2 to launch with a brand new 3D Mario game, but Nintendo rarely does what we expect, and so we ended up with the first 3D Donkey Kong game in 26 years, Donkey Kong Bananza. But can the Big Ape live up to the standards set by Mario for the past nearly 3 decades? In short, absolutely yes, he can. However, the full story is a little bit more complicated. Before I get started, this review is going to feature spoilers for Donkey Kong Bananza. So if you've not played the game and you don't want to be spoiled, then go away now because there's some spoilers, but come back later. Sorry, first subscribe, then play the game, then come back and watch the video. I couldn't start this review without talking about the way this game looks. Visually, the game is stunning. It's the absolute best we've seen from Nintendo and the Mario universe in particular. I mean, look at DK! The smoothness in his face, the over-the-top stylization of his fur that gives it a chunky, cartoony yet detailed look. He's a good-looking boy! And then there's the new Kongs, Poppy, Grumpy and Void. Not only are they excellent designs, those designs have been realised to immensely great effect, separating them from Kong designs of the past, yet not alienating the connecting design ideas that define a Kong. But whilst DK and the Kongs may be the main event, it's certainly not all there is to feast your eyes on. The Elders are above and beyond the most detailed characters I think I've ever seen Nintendo produce. Every flappy wrinkle is shown to great effect to truly make me appreciate the age of these musical dudes. In fact, the whole cast looks great, and the animation is second to none, the cutscenes having a kids CG movie type of vibe akin to Disney, Pixar or DreamWorks. Animation is incredibly lively and makes the character model shine. And that's not just during cutscenes, in-game animations are fluid and filled with personality. And then, when we get towards the end of the game and we encounter the Kremlins, they look absolutely phenomenal, perfectly recreating those Donkey Kong Country designs in 3D that gives the perfect blend of nostalgic injection straight into the bloodstream with a freshness that makes them almost feel alien and new. And then the big man himself, King K. Rool, has never looked more unhinged, more menacing and outright intimidating than he does in this game, especially when we see him eliminate what we thought was the main boss in one hit. Just slapped him. Just straight up slapped him to the sun. Just slapped him like a bitch! And this is before we get to his new form, the almighty Rock King himself, and the return of Mario Odyssey's New Donk City as the setting to fight him in. Is this the beginning of Nintendo actually interconnecting their games with more thought and consideration, more akin to a cinematic universe like Marvel or Star Wars? Probably not, but it was a really cool and surprising connection. I can keep going on about this game visually. It's genuinely, absolutely stunning. But ultimately, to me, these things are entirely secondary to the gameplay and game feel. And I'm more than happy to say that as incredible as the game looks, it plays even better, which is not much of a surprise, but it is good to know that Nintendo remain on form. Donkey Kong Bananza does pretty much what you'd expect from playing as a giant ape. A lot of running, punching, climbing, and of course, smashing. But it's the way these moves can link together, with less expected abilities like rolling and turf surfing to form traversal options that make every level an absolute thrill and joy to move through. Sometimes I just catch myself playing with these mechanics with no real goal or outcome in mind, just for the absolute love of the game. And this is a pretty special thing I don't think a lot of games manage to achieve. It's just fun, even when you're doing nothing. But the levels invite this sort of playful, half-minded, sandbox-style experience. Of course, the levels are wonderfully designed, as I think Nintendo's development studios are some of the absolute very best in the business when it comes to level design. But the crazy part is, the game looks and feels like it wants you to play it traditionally, moving along the carefully constructed level, guiding you to your goals without feeling like it's holding your hand. The art of level design. But playing as DK, you have the ability to smash absolutely almost everything. And this is the big genius of the game. As you ignore the path and smash your way through a cliff face, discovering collectibles and secrets as you go, or stumbling into a task-based banana where you've circumvented the whole task by just smashing your way through it instead. It makes you feel rebellious. It gives you the feeling of taking back control, like you're rejecting this carefully, masterfully created level designs and giving the designers the proverbial middle finger. But in reality, that's what they want you to do. The game is designed around this mechanic, but the way they implement it makes you feel so in control of what you're doing as a player that each level is this layered masterpiece that goes beyond the traditional thinking of level design and signposting. And as I said, that traditional form is all there. And you could probably play a big part of Donkey Kong Bananza completely traditionally, without, using your big ape arms to disappear a mountain every chance you get. And you're never punished. You're never hindered. There's never something out of reach because you've smashed up too much terrain. It's all so well thought out and designed that it's yet another example, alongside the like of Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, that shine as an evolution and progression of how we perceive level and world design. There are also the addition of DK's brand new Bananza transformations, which are just the sort of bonkers addition that truly makes it a Nintendo game. They don't effectively change the game a great deal, as they're timed transformations, meaning anything they affect is ultimately small in scale. But their actual function is to create barriers of progression, and other games use this tactic too. Traditional Zelda, for example, will give you a new item, like a hook shot that will now let you grapple to new areas. Bananza transformations are this game's version of that, and the fact that Pauline sings some of the catchiest songs I've ever heard in my life as you play as these new forms is the absolute cherry on top that makes this really feel like a playable Disney movie. Bananza's structure does borrow very heavily from Mario Odyssey's structure, like the many moons scattered across levels. There are many bananas here too. Both games have tradable currency for outfits, as well as other structural similarities like the small-scale open-world style of levels, and the smaller linear challenge-like levels that can be accessed via portals or doors within the main levels. And at first, this similarity in structure was going to be one of my complaints about this game. But as I write this script, I kind of had a realization that familiarity with the structure helped to reinforce the sense of rebellion when you go off course and just start smashing the absolute hell out of everything you can see. This isn't all it shares with Mario Odyssey. Like Odyssey, I find myself less than impressed with the environments. Now, there's nothing technically wrong with either title, and their respective environments and the art direction is good too. It's just that they're a little boring and safe. From a conceptual standpoint, I just find them a little dull. It's always snow level, desert level, jungle level, and beach level. And even within those concepts, there's nothing unique to them. And Bananza has the extra problem of being entirely set underground. So there is a lot of caves and rock, and more rock, and some more rock. And I completely understand that that's the trade-off for the type of gameplay they've gone for. But the rest of the level, when you're not smashing through rocks, should be more exciting. And again, it's not technically bad, just a bit boring. And whilst I have praised the hell out of its secretly structured and layered level design, early on in the game, I tried to add that structure I thought was missing by immediately smashing everything around me and spending literal hours just smashing rock up to collect maps that show me where golden bananas are. And this was incredibly boring. But I recognise fully that was a me problem, and instead of embracing the joy and wonder of Donkey Kong Bananza, I reduced it to a sort of checklist of tasks. But should a game allow the player to fall into that trap? I think Nintendo's new wave of design ethos since Breath of the Wild, this sort of ultimate freedom of player expression and level design that encourages, rewards and facilitates that sort of gameplay, is masterful. Truly an absolute wonder of game design. However, I do think that freedom can go too far. I have no interest in games like Minecraft or Super Mario Maker or Little Big Planet. I don't want a build your own experience type of game. I like a game to be a curated experience by professionals that know what they're doing at the absolute top of their game. Don't get me wrong, so far Nintendo are on my preferred side of that line, but I worry as they keep pushing that freedom of play, we may lose something along the way. And we've kind of already seen an example of that loss in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, with the absence of traditional dungeons, to me the absolute lifeblood of Zelda. And now they're sort of gone. And the reason is they're too linear and don't match with the new design ethos. And maybe Donkey Kong Bananza has slightly put a bit of a toe over that line for me. And again, I fully recognise that that is my fault, and I'm a fully grown adult that probably sees life as a bit of a checklist to complete, and I applied that thinking to Donkey Kong Bananza. But a child would just have the wonder and freedom of exploration and discovery and the absolute magic of it all. A child won't see the hidden depths of the layers of structure that the designers have painstakingly hidden. A child would just marvel and be absorbed by the absolute playfulness of it. And that's why Donkey Kong Bananza and Nintendo games are so special, at least to me. Let them and they'll transport you to that wonderful childlike wonderment and playfulness like nothing else I've ever experienced. Look, I could go full YouTuber, reviewer, clickbaity mode and nitpick the hell out of this game. I could talk about how Cranky Kong is so underutilised and just says the same damn thing every time you find him, or how the race layer that features Diddy and Dixie Kong feels like a complete afterthought tacked into the middle of the game for no reason. I could go even harder on the fact I really don't like most of the environments of the levels, or even that I think the game could benefit from dropping a level. Probably the hilltop layer, it felt like a pointless filler that didn't provide anything new that the other levels didn't do already. But why? It won't change the fact that this is a monumentally fun game, and another example that these developers are on an entirely different planet when it comes to level design. And besides, for every nitpicking negative I can think of, there's a positive that balances it out. Ultimately, Donkey Kong Bananza is everything you want from a Nintendo game. Fun, creative, innovative, and clinically well executed. It feels so good to play. The toolset you have is the perfect accompaniment to the levels, and if you just let yourself get caught up in its freedom, it's an absolute blast. So here on this channel, I have a letter ranking system for games that sometimes has a plus, but never a minus. And if you want a full description of what my ranking means, see the description box below. But for Donkey Kong Bananza, I'd give it a well-deserved A+. Its gameplay is so unique, I can't think of a game that feels like this to play. Even with its structural similarities to Mario Odyssey, it manages to stand on its own as a new pillar of 3D platforming royalty, but it doesn't quite deliver enough to me emotionally on a personal level to hit an S rank. If you like this video, then leave a like and subscribe for even more Nintendo and Switch 2 news, reviews and opinions. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.